My name is Dr. Dianne Mani. I am a mom, wife, clinical psychologist, and coach to the modern mama. My passion is to help modern moms step into their true potential and reinvent themselves so they can live a life they absolutely love. I truly believe that every mom's journey is unique, and I want to inspire moms to own their journey and know it's possible to thrive. Together, I want us to reinvent motherhood. So this is why I'm so excited to bring you this series. Each week, I will spotlight a new mom who I believe embodies the reinvented mom. These women's motherhood journeys are all beautifully different, and they all agreed to share their insights and best advice with all of you to own your own too. So sit back, listen, watch, and enjoy. My name is Dr.
All right, and welcome back, everyone. I am so excited because this is our second interview of the series for the Reinventing Motherhood Spotlight series. And I am so incredibly happy and excited to introduce someone that is very close to me. I'm bringing on for you my cousin, Regina. She is one of my closest friends. Obviously, she's my cousin, but she is more like a sister to me than a cousin. And I've shared her entire life with her. And she's 5 years younger than me, but we spent all of our time together when we were little and all the way up until adulthood. She has been someone that I have leaned on for support in so many different ways. She has been so inspirational to me through her journey as a mother, and also just even supporting me when I first had my two kids. And so without further ado, I'd like you to meet Regina.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So Regina, I am bringing you on because I was mentioning that you have had just such a very unique and beautiful journey through motherhood, both in, again, starting out with being kind of second mom to my kids, and then of course having your own. And so maybe you can just first tell us a little bit about yourself and then start to tell us a little bit about your journey as well.
Okay, so as you mentioned, my name is Regina. I am 31, 32. I can't remember anymore. But I had my first daughter in 2014, who's now 6. Technically started off, as a single mother. Co-parenting was a bit of a struggle at first, but it turned out beautifully. And then we'll go in a little bit into detail later on about that. But then fast forward to the more recent changes, beautiful changes in my life. It feels like overnight I became not only a mother of one, but of 3. And it has blossomed, and it's still blossoming into something so beautiful. I'm very, very excited about it. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your daughters, because obviously I know them very well, but how old are they? What are their names? Tell us a little bit about that transition. You were already starting to name, you kind of started out with being a single mom, then co-parenting, and then now having like a blended family is really what's going on for you. And so talk to me about like those intervals of that journey for you as a mom.
All right. So, being completely blunt and honest, when I first had Shirley, so obviously was an unplanned pregnancy, but I think that it was in the perfect time in my life where I was kind of not necessarily lost, just kind of going through the motions, not having a goal or plan or any aspect. I just had no direction, right? And so I had Shirley's when I was 25, I believe. She's now 6. Okay, yes. And she was like my wake-up call. You have this child that is depending on you, life and breath. And what are you doing? Where are you going with your life right now? And so she really kind of was my inspiration to do more. I was already on the really good path of kind of like self-enlightenment and going back to school, not partying as much, which is what I was doing. I worked in the restaurant industry, and for those who have, or it's just it's a different scene.
Mm-hmm.
it's I got out of that after I had her, and had some like a 9 to 5, which helped me spend more time with her. Although I was at the time planning events, so like weddings, and so it took a lot of time away from her because I pretty much just had her Sunday, and then she would go be with her dad for 2.5 days. So I just felt like I was missing out a lot on her life. Um, and then, you know, back in 2018, I met Eric, who we've already known each other. We met in high school, and then we were together for a brief moment after high school. And then it just so happens that we kind of were on the same kind of plane in life, kind of experienced very similar things, had 2 daughters in the same year because the girls are only 4 months apart. The girls, so Charlize is mine, and then he has a daughter, Aaliyah. They're both 6 years old. They're both 4 months apart. They're best friends. They're sisters. They're so cute. And then, Eric and I got together relatively quick, but it was super organic and natural. And then we had a child of our own. And then I'm going to have to ask you to keep me on track as far as your question.
No. You're doing beautifully. I think,
Okay.
yeah, all of this definitely. So, I know. So you were just talking about the fact that you had your newest baby and newest addition to the family. And I was just commenting before we got onto this call right now to Regina that her daughter Victoria is absolutely beautiful. She's got these like giant eyes that just like bring you in, and she just, I don't know, there's just this joy that every single time I see her, I get so excited. Um, I want to go back to some of the things that you were saying because I think that what you highlighted was how motherhood really can be this like very inspiring pivot in our life where it changes us. It changed you, as you were saying. It kind of was like an awakening for you.
Mhm.
And I watched that journey obviously with you, and just the resilience that you had with toggling between, all of the different responsibilities with her, still maintaining, the work and doing it at a very high level. And so, what do you think was the most challenging aspect of being a single working mom for you?
Um, Balancing and kind of having an inner war with myself with, you have a child, so that saying, you put them first, they're your number one, and they are, and that's very true. However, I learned that it's also important to balance, self-care, because how, that saying, you fill your cup until it overflows and you overflow into others. Well, I didn't know that. I felt like I put her first, so I would I kind of disregarded, my own health, mental health, physical health,
Mhm.
everything. Um, and I realized that it's important not only to take care of your child, of course, but also how can you give when you are self-depleted?
Mhm.
So that made me realize, I better step my game up. So then, you have a child, your children are watching you, your every move, everything you're doing, everything you're
Mhm.
saying. So you are the prime example of what a mother or just a person should be, so
Yeah.
um,
Self-care. Like I think that this is a topic that obviously I talk about a lot in the group, that I talk about with all of my clients all the time, because when you were talking about, yes, like absolutely, our children are they become such an important aspect of our life and such a primary focus, but
mhm,
we cannot give to them when we are not doing well.
mhm,
I think I've used this reference in the group and also with, again, my clients, where I think moms are we're so interesting in that there's that saying that like we can't give from an empty cup. And
mhm.
the reality is that us mamas, we always find something at the bottom of that cup. And
Yeah,
so it's never like that we're not giving, we're always giving. I think that the problem is that when we don't take care of ourselves, when we're not filling our
exactly.
cup, we're giving from the bottom of that cup, like the remnant, kind of the not so goodness of who we are. And
Yeah.
so if we want to be able to provide the modeling, if we want to be able to provide the support that our children really need, we have to be that solid foundation for them. And I think that's such a mindset shift that
Mhm.
many moms struggle with. And I'm wondering for you, what helped you realize that? And then what did you do to start shifting and taking care of yourself?
So my realization would be honestly to quit drinking. I was drinking a lot, stress. It was a stressful environment. As mentioned, I was planning events. I was also in the restaurant industry, and so after a long hard day, let's go grab a beer. It just with your friends, with your girlfriends. It's just, but that it just there has to be a balance. And so I just became more health conscious, not only physically, but mentally. And what helped me most is to find like minded mothers, basically mothers who I can, talk to, check in with, inspire and be inspired. And that was really, really important. Not only that, it's just when you have other people that can understand, what the difficulties of motherhood, because we all have our own mental breakdowns silently
Mhm.
sometimes, when the kids are asleep. It's important not to go through that alone or feel like you're alone. And I feel like a lot of moms are under the pressure of not making sure that they are not weak, but that in itself, you can't think that you are when you it's okay to break down and cry sometimes. I think so what helped me is accepting that you can't always be strong, and realizing that, and asking myself, what can I do better? Every day, it's just that constant, how can I grow from this?
Mhm.
So just being mindful of that.
Mhm.
I'm huge on Instagram. I have a business that I'm focusing more on the 3 kids right now, so it just, so I kind of stepped back from that, but that in itself helped me because, I'm able to be more open, and the more open I was, the more I attracted, like I said, like-minded people and mothers, and that kind of created, a space for me, of friendships that, allowed me to do so.
Mhm.
So what I would suggest and really say is, be your genuine self and you'll attract people. And that's what really helped me get through a lot of things. You, you know, other friends and
I think what's really standing out for me in what you're saying is the work of having to turn inward and be accepting and authentic with yourself around all aspects.
yeah.
So there's the aspect of recognizing your strengths. It's the but also that other side of the coin of recognizing areas that maybe you're struggling with. And I
Hmm.
feel like in motherhood we're going to have those different levels where we're feeling stronger in certain aspects and then we're feeling like we're not as strong. And the more that we can be vulnerable and authentic with ourselves around what we're needing, that's really what I'm hearing you talk about is that acknowledgement and compassion that you developed for yourself to say, I need more, than what I can do for myself. I don't need to keep on putting on this like mask of I can do it all, I have the strength. And then on top of that, finding the community that is going to support you in that mindset, in helping you to feel like they can give you the strength that you don't have in that moment. And I think that's such a powerful thing. The other thing that I was hearing you talk about, especially is like we have so much social media out there and we can connect with all these people. The more authentic we can be outwardly, we're going to attract the
Right,
same kind of people. And
right.
we, again, get to make that decision around is this a healthy person in my life? Is this not a healthy person in my life? But I think that's so powerful to find that community. And I obviously advocate for that with the group that I
Um,
have, with my Instagram, with any person that I speak with, really. Um, and I'm just going to name that I've seen that transition for you from when you were younger. I know that you and I had had so many intimate conversations about feeling like worries about judgment from others, feeling anxious in social situations. And then once we started to blossom in our own ways and recognize that those are okay to have those vulnerabilities, then all of a sudden it's like the mask was able to come off and we just grew into ourselves, which was really, really great. Um, what have you learned through motherhood? What has been like the most important aspect of your learning through this journey? You know, with again the transitions that you've had from single mom to blended family and now new baby, you know, in your life
Mhm.
as well. What are the learnings that you're taking away from this journey up until this point?
I feel like the journey through motherhood has helped me most in finding myself and knowing that finding yourself, it's such a funny term, is an ongoing journey. Um, because everything is just so, I guess, not candid. Like I said, you're being watched. The more you could better yourself and learn about yourself is, what you can give to your kids.
Hmm.
So can you just repeat? I lost my train of thought for a
No,
second.
that's okay. I mean, you're speaking to it right now, kind of the learning, like what you've learned through motherhood, like what has been the most important learning for you.
Definitely just that, just finding who you are,
Hmm.
and what makes you thrive. I think that um, just being honest with yourself and your kids and your family, having communication with your spouse, has been the most important learning aspect of motherhood for me. Especially right now, going into kind of the thick of our situation, as you mentioned, like our blended family. So on my side, so with Charlize's dad, we've known each other for, we've gone through co-parenting now for 6 years, whereas Eric, it's very new for him.
Hmm.
We are going through a custody battle right now on his end, where we have Aaliyah majority of the time, and then she has parenting time with her mom, which has been a struggle. Um, and so within the past year, I've learned that it is so important to be not only supportive to your husband, but for the children going through it.
Hmm.
Because within this past year, I mean, it's been life changing for everybody. I mean, Charlize went through having my attention, the light of by day, being
Yeah.
number one, to sharing me with three other beings. So that was, pretty difficult for her. And then Aaliyah being um, introduced and open to so many family members, where she was kind of, just in her own, sheltered for a
Hmm.
little bit. Um, it really made me open up and to make sure that I'm very clear and intentional in the direction I want our lives to go. Um, so now, like you said, and I want to tie this back into, sometimes we get caught up in what people are going to perceive us to be, but at the end
Hmm.
of the day, it's your life, it's our life. So what do we want to make of it? What are we going to do? And it doesn't matter if there's judgment, coming from all ends. It's
Yeah.
We have good intentions. We are going to live our lives. So let's, kind of just do it,
Yeah. A couple things stood out with what you were saying in
Yeah.
terms of the um gosh, like you were speaking about like the transitions and how it's impacted like all of you, especially like Charlize and then even Aaliyah and her experience. And I think that that was so important to kind of highlight in that your ability to think about how it might impact them is important because it's going to help you to empathize with your kids around like why they might be acting out in a different way, how you might support them in a different way rather than getting it into your head. I know that some moms can get in their head and think like, I'm not doing this right. Like, why aren't they doing it the way I'm wanting them to, or they should be acting
Mhm.
this way, or they should be acting that way. And rather than going into that space, I'm hearing you be a lot more empathic and understanding. And when we can come from that space as a parent, I think that makes it such a better dynamic and relationship that we can have with our children. Um, the other aspect of what you're talking about, I think, is incredibly important too, where we get so many messages from everyone,
Yeah.
social media, our family, our own like upbringing. And so there's like this constant dialoguing that's going on in our mind about like the
Am I doing the right thing?
expectations,
Yeah.
right? And what you named was kind of this like pause of just being like, I need to figure out what makes sense, like here and now. Like
Right.
my family, yes, they're doing it that way, they're doing it this way, they used to do it this way, but I need to stop and figure out what do I need, what does my family need.
Right.
So I think that that's incredibly important with what you were saying. So again, I wanted to highlight that aspect of it. um, the learning aspects for you, I'm curious, if you were talking about like the I need to like the investment into self, understanding yourself, even communication, all of those are skills. And I'm wondering, how did you learn them? Like, what did you do to figure out how to do these things? Like, yeah, how did you learn those skills to start to implement into your life?
Well, you said it, it's pause. In anything that you're doing. I mean, just yesterday I was pretty frustrated with Shirley. She takes after me. She's super stubborn. So when she has her mindset, like that's it. She does not see anything else. Um, but it's just pausing and then taking a breath. Um, I think that's the most important thing. Like we, as moms or as just people, are just on the go. We're just so quick to react instead of just pause and envision the outcome that you want, and then ask yourself, how do you get there? So I find that recently a lot of, as soon as I feel, I say my blood boil just because, I get excited, or like I just feel myself about to outburst and, kind of tell one of the kids to go to their room. I just
Yeah.
take a breath and just pause. And I feel like you can apply that to anything in life, any kind of, challenges that you're having, pause, take a moment to envision what you want, and then take some deep breaths. And,
Yeah.
and that has really, like we talked about, allowing yourself that space. So that
Yeah.
in everything that I do, I try and make sure I pause and breathe and think
The
before
power of that pause. It is
I
the most
know.
magical thing.
Yes.
It is, you're speaking about like the mind body connection too,
Mhm.
and the ability to get those two things working for you in a productive way, but needing to take that pause so that they can catch up to each other and
Right.
then be intentional about however you're going to go forward and react. And I think some of the things that I know of you are you've put in that work of you read a lot. I know you read a lot. You and I share stories and we share like different books or articles and things like that. And so there is this like growth aspect of skill building where we didn't know, I don't think that we're born with these skills. We learned them. And so there's like the intentionality, this goes back to self-care, of investing time to learn about yourself and
Mhm.
reaching towards all of the information that's out there that's going to help you to do that. Um, and so I think that that's so wonderful. And so, you just keep such an amazing attitude. I mean, if anyone wants to follow you on Instagram, I think that I love seeing your posts because they are always so incredibly vulnerable in a very positive way. They're very vulnerable and relatable and very inspiring. How do you keep such a good attitude? Like,
You
what is
don't
your
have
secret
to.
with that?
So the secret is my Instagram is for myself. Those quotes, so the way I have it laid out is I have inspiring quotes. And then, of course, I have pictures of my family. Mainly it's the kids and, Eric and I now. Um, but my secret is that it's my page. So I'm going to, before I go to bed, because I can't sleep sometimes,
Yeah.
I go and I scroll through and I see the kids grow before my eyes because I'm just scrolling. And then, in pops, quotes or things that people can relate to. And the best thing about it is that I have a following that people can connect with. So not only is it just for, for me to look at, but it's a way that I connect with others who understand. Um, and as we talked about, just keeping that positivity and, you know, putting that out there, it's what you get back. So there's a lot of support
The thing right now that you said that I don't think that I've ever really thought about, but is so, it's such a great pivot of how you might look at your social media. Because I think what you said was, it's for me.
there. Yeah.
And I
And
don't think that we think about it that way. I think that most people think of it in the context of it's for
others to
social,
see.
right?
Yeah.
It's for others to see. We're seeking validation. We're kind of
Hmm.
showing the world. And so what you said right now, I think that's really going to stand out for me because I actually very much so relate to that, it's for me. It's like a remembrance feed for myself and
Yes.
reminders for myself, whether it's in memories or inspiration. It's things for me to kind of look back on. And admittedly, like I think I look at my own feed more often than I look at anybody else's
Yeah.
because of exactly that. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's such a powerful thing. And then going back to the abundance aspect, where you're talking about like, look, I'm pouring into myself, I'm focusing in on me, and not in a selfish way, in a very like loving and compassionate way. And look at what it's doing. It's creating this like outward pour to other people that can relate, that people can feel that they are normalized in whatever experience that they're having. And
Hmm.
so I, I loved that. I just had to really highlight that right now. Um, so, I want to know from you, a couple different things, like last kind of questions here in terms of if you were to think about like your journey through motherhood, what would you have wanted, if anything, to be different, or what kind of support or help would you have wanted to be given or have experienced when you were going through that journey at the beginning?
That's a great question. I think it's really important, of course, to receive that support, but from people who are really there to support you versus trying to teach you, because it is your journey. And sometimes I feel like other mothers, family members, friends who already are moms, they want, their intention is to take care of you and help you, but
Mhm.
then it turns into, you're not doing it right, or
Mm.
you should do it this way. So I would say that now, I want to like inspire other moms to be supportive in a sense that you are there to just be arms and ears versus giving your opinion and direction, because I believe that, I mean, our moms, they just want, but they also want to be so hands-on to where it can get a little bit overwhelming, and you kind of lose who you are as a mom because you're taking on other people's experiences and opinions.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would say to be very confident in who you are as a mom. And I'm still not always that, but kind of remind yourself, I am a mom. I'm always doing my best. If I could say one thing to everyone out there, it would be, we're not perfect. We're gonna fail sometimes. But
Mhm.
before you go to bed at night, as long as you know you did your best, you're gonna go to sleep just fine.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be it. Just know that you're doing your best and strive to do your best. And even though your best might not always look as pretty, it's still your best.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think I'm always advocating for reminding ourselves that we're doing the best that we can with what we have in the moment, because
Yeah.
sometimes we have more and sometimes we have less. And so to, again, kind of honor that space of where we're at, I think is so important. And what you were talking about too, with regard to like all of, again, kind of the messaging is what you were talking about again
Mm-hmm.
here, where there's lots of good intention, and learning to be able to take whatever it is that people are saying and take it with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Pick and choose what makes sense. I think that's what I'm always thinking about, is that I can appreciate all of the information that people can give me, but I get to make the decision of whether or not I'm going to take it or leave it.
Yeah, be your own filter.
Absolutely. Exactly. Exactly. And the other part that I don't think that we've necessarily like named is that we have the right to assert ourselves and to be able to say, thank you. Actually, right now, I don't need your advice. I actually would love if you would just listen to me. And I think that this goes for whether you're speaking with a friend or whether you're speaking with your partner. I know that that's something that I've had to learn to actually like advocate for myself, is saying, and I might even like sometimes premise that before I even begin my conversation with some of my friends, where I'm like, I'm having a bad day, I just need you to listen, because
Yeah.
then it kind of gives them the indication that please don't give me advice.
Right.
And then it also takes the pressure off of them from feeling like they need to give me advice too. So I wanted to just bring that up, because I think I really want to empower people to start to speak up about
Yeah.
that too, where they don't have to feel like
They
everybody
need to
has to
explain
keep talking
themselves.
at them. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I do this because no, if you do that and it's, from the heart and you have
Yeah.
good intentions, you don't need to.
Yeah. Well,
I
there we
have
go.
a doctor's appointment for this neck
No
at
problem.
11. So I think that was the office, but it's
No
okay.
problem. All right. Well, I am just wondering, any last like tips, advice, like what would you want other mamas to know or encourage? I know that was, and we're premising this with exactly what we just said. Information is great. Take it with however it makes sense for you. But what would you want to give as kind of last advice for mamas?
I know this is very general, but just be yourself, be who you are, be proud of who you are. Also, some of the moments where you're not as proud of yourself, embrace those. I mean, because we aren't perfect. And that's one thing I wanted to touch on when you were asking me, is that what definitely helped me become who I am now is that loving the not so pretty sides of
Yeah.
growing up and motherhood. We make mistakes, but make sure you learn from them, and also don't ignore them or pretend they never happened. The more that you can love, your good side and your dark side, just all of it, everything as a whole, you start to, transfer that onto your kids, because they're not always going to be little angels. They're going to, run around, but you have to just remind yourself no one's perfect, and love as a whole, yourself and others.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I have so much appreciated just taking this time. Obviously, I always love connecting with you just personally, obviously, as my cousin. And again, someone that I really have looked up to. Even if you're younger than me, I know that I've said that to you so many times, that you have been such an inspiration through very difficult times for me. You and I share stories constantly about our motherhood journey, and I think it's so powerful to have those people that you can connect with more directly in that way. So I thank you so much for sharing so much of your heart, not just here, but also to the world, in all of the things that you do when you inspire in your posts, like we were talking about. Um, Again, Regina is, if you aren't already following her on Instagram, I'm going to certainly really encourage it, because she posts some wonderful quotes of inspiration, really great reminders for us to just be authentic, to check in with ourselves. And I know that you always share kind of those vulnerable moments around the struggles that you have in so many different parts of your life, whether it is with your family or even like you know, we didn't even touch on this, and maybe one day we'll have to come back and talk a little bit more about it, but just like um, our bodies, how our bodies change as moms. And so I'm not going to get into it now, but
Oh, it's
definitely it's
okay.
something we
We
can
have
go
time.
into.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, maybe tell us a little bit about that, because I think that was another piece that we didn't touch on that I think is another really huge thing that I know that you transitioned from in terms of body image as a like changing bodies with us
oh
moms.
yeah.
So yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, love.
Tell us about it. Hmm.
So, and I'm still kind of, I'll be honest with you, I'm still struggling with that right now. What I'm talking about is learning to love your pregnant and post and pre, bodies of being a mom and how it changes you. So with Charlize, my first pregnancy, I started to actually right after I think that was the most I loved myself less
Mm.
than I ever did that in when you're in high school you're very self-critical, but as an adult I didn't love myself, and it showed. I weighed almost 200 pounds,
Mhm.
and I just kind of like given up, and I think it has a lot to do with the postpartum that I went through, which I'm glad I brought that up because that's another thing too. When you are going through something, it's not okay to just suffer alone. It's
Mhm.
important to have that support. And you find that a lot of moms go through it more than you think.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and it doesn't mean that you weren't strong.
Right.
It's a very normal thing. Going back to it, being pregnant again and just being too tired or having a stiff neck and then the stroller falling on your knee and not have all these um, goals to get back into being healthy. But I hit a point just recently where I'm just like, this is who I am. This is my body right now, and I'm just gonna love it anyways. So, and I
Yeah.
think that's important. Just know that you're gonna get to hit your goals eventually. It's just really not always on your time, you
Yeah.
know. It's in the timing of everything that's going on around you, So, and that's okay. Just accept it and still
Yeah.
love it anyways.
I think that explanation that you had around, you know, of course, the very important messaging around acknowledgement that our bodies change as when we have children, and learning the body self-love. But I think that this parallels to the journey of motherhood, where accept where you're at. The
Yes.
goals are going to be there, you know, as long as you're intentional about creating goals and intentional behavior towards those things. It's okay to have those goals, but also appreciate where you're at and be okay with that to a
Yeah.
certain degree. As long as, again, there's also that coupling of I'm also working towards those things,
Mhm.
even a little at a time. And I think that that's important. And so again, like there's just so much about you. Like I think that we could go on and on and on. And um, how do we connect with you? Let them know how they can connect with you, because she didn't name it here. She does dabble in right now, dabbling because you're still focused on the baby, but Regina does sell It Works, and that very much so is a brand that is focused in on health as well, health and wellness. And so, if that's something that you'd want to connect with her on, certainly that's something she has a lot of knowledge on. But then, like I said, even just for the inspiration, how do we connect with you, Regine?
I'm mostly on Instagram, and my Instagram name is Regina Loves Charlize. Um, and it's spelled like Charlize Theron. So it's just Regina Loves Charlize,
Okay.
mainly on there. I'm actually going to tag you. I've already started on one of my stories because I want people to connect with you as well. And I feel like they are benefiting so much, and then I would love
Thank
for my
you.
followers to see this and to see what
Yeah.
you have to offer. But yes, it would just be Regina Loves Charlize. I'm
Okay.
barely on Facebook. But if some people use Facebook, it's just Regina Fausone. But
Okay. I will certainly add this into the description as well so that people can link with you. But again, thank you so much for taking the time for sharing your beautiful journey. I truly believe that your journey is one that, again, I wanted you to bring this here because you have all of those different elements of a very different and unique journey that most people kind of, again, we were going back to kind of the expectations of what motherhood's supposed to look like. And that has not been yours, but you've done this thing where you've made it your own. And you are doing so well, and you just light up a room, you know, the second that people see you on Instagram or even when you're in person. And so it's just this, again, encompassing of the reinvented mama for me. So thank you again for being
Oh, thank
here.
you for having me.
Of course. All right, my dear. So we will talk very soon.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.